Most people go to Dollar Tree for quick deals or cheap snacks, but for some, it becomes something far darker. Tonight, we'll hear 3 true stories from those who say their shift or their shopping trip turned into a nightmare. Turn off the lights. These are Dollar Tree horror stories you'll never forget. I've been working at Dollar Tree for almost 4 years now, mostly in the city branch on Oakwood Avenue. It's not the worst job. Decent co-workers, easy shifts, and the hours pass quickly. But the night shift, that's different. We close at 11 p.m., but I usually stay late to restock and clean up. Once the doors are locked, the place feels wrong. The fluorescent lights hum a little too loudly. The aisles stretch longer than they should. And there's this sense that something is still moving when it shouldn't be. I used to think it was just exhaustion or my mind playing tricks on me. Until one night, last winter. It was a Thursday. Freezing outside. The kind of night where the streets go silent except for the wind echoing through the buildings. We'd had a rough day. Shelves were a mess, and I was the only closer that night. My manager, Lisa, had left early because of a sick kid, so it was just me and security cameras watching from above. At 10:50, a woman came in, the last customer of the night. She was wearing a long brown coat, hood up, face mostly hidden. She walked slowly, like she wasn't sure what she was looking for. I gave her the usual. "Hey there, just so you know, we're closing soon." She didn't respond. She just nodded once and kept walking toward the back of the store. Now, that's not too strange. People get quiet or distracted all the time. But after 10 minutes, she still hadn't come up to the register. I figured maybe she left through the side door or was just taking her time. But when I did my closing walkthrough, I noticed something weird. Every aisle I passed had items knocked over. Not just a few, but entire sections, like someone had been dragging their hand across the shelves. Candy, decorations, cleaning bottles, all pushed to the floor. When I reached the end of the last aisle, I saw her. She was standing perfectly still by the freezer section, facing the glass doors. Her hood was still up, and her reflection looked off. In the reflection, her face was visible. Pale skin, dark circles around her eyes, and a twisted grin that didn't match the stillness of her body. I froze. "Ma'am," I managed to say, "we're closed now." Her reflection blinked, but she didn't. I took a step back, and the lights above flickered. The humming from the ceiling buzzed louder, like static pressing against my ears. Then the freezer door behind her slowly creaked open. A faint mist rolled out, cold enough that I could see my breath. When the light steadied again, she was gone. I ran to the door, thinking maybe she left, but both front doors were still locked. I was shaking as I checked the cameras from the small security office. The footage showed her walking down the aisles, knocking things over one by one. But when she reached the freezer, the screen glitched, static for 5 seconds. Then she was gone. I paused the footage and zoomed in. Just before the static hit, her reflection in the freezer door turned its head toward the camera. I went home that night trying to convince myself it was just some crazy customer or a bad glitch. But the next morning, when I came in for my shift, my manager looked pale. She asked me, "Did you go in the freezer last night?" I told her no. She showed me a photo on her phone. A still from the morning inspection. Inside the freezer, the glass was fogged over, except for one clear part where someone had drawn a handprint. Long, thin fingers, almost like claws, and under it, written in the fog, were the words, "Still here." That night, I begged not to close alone again. But the schedule was short, and I got stuck on closing shift the following Friday. This time, I made sure every camera was recording, every light on, and the doors locked early. But around 10:40, the motion sensor beeped near the freezer aisle. I checked the feed. The light was flickering again, and in the corner of the frame, a dark shape stood near the freezer door. At first I thought maybe a homeless person got in, or I'd missed a customer. But when I walked over, my stomach dropped. The air was ice cold. My breath came out in fog. The freezer door was slightly open again, just a sliver, and inside, something was tapping on the glass from the inside. 3 slow taps. Pause. 3 more. I couldn't move. Every instinct told me to run, but I forced myself to look closer. There was a face pressed against the other side of the glass. The same pale, smiling face I saw in the reflection. Its eyes were black, but not hollow, like they were filled with ink. Its smile stretched too wide. The skin around its mouth cracked like dry paint. Then, a faint whisper through the glass. "You saw me. Now you're mine." The freezer door started to tremble, like something was pushing from the inside. I bolted, ran straight out, didn't even clock out. When I got to the parking lot, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Through the glass storefront, the overhead lights were flickering in a pattern. 3 flashes, pause, 3 flashes. The same rhythm as the knocking. I quit Dollar Tree the next morning, but a week later, my old co-worker, Jamal, texted me. "Bro, weird thing. The freezer door keeps fogging up every night, and there's this handprint that won't fade. Manager says it smells like cold perfume." "What did you do, man?" I didn't reply. That night, I checked my apartment's security camera out of paranoia and nearly dropped my phone. At exactly 10:40 p.m., my hallway light flickered 3 times. And for a second, I swear I saw a pale reflection behind me in the window, smiling. Static fades in. Some customers never really leave. They just find a new store to haunt. When my sister got married, it was the first time in my life I'd ever lived alone. I used to think I'd love the quiet. No noise, no arguing, no one asking me where I was going. But after the wedding, when the laughter faded and my apartment went still, I realized something strange about silence. It starts to breathe. The first few nights weren't bad. I'd get home from work, order food, watch something mindless, and crash on the couch. But by the second week, the silence started feeling heavier, like someone was sitting in the room with me, not saying a word. One night, I decided to get out, just to distract myself. It was late, around 9:30 p.m., and I figured I'd walk to the Dollar Tree down the block. I needed some basic stuff anyway. Detergent, a few snacks, paper towels, something normal. The moment I stepped inside, I noticed it was almost empty. Just one cashier up front, a tired-looking woman scrolling on her phone, and maybe 1 or 2 people wandering around. The air felt thicker than usual. Dollar Tree lights have this weird way of buzzing right at the edge of silence, and that night, the hum felt louder than ever. I took a green basket and started walking the aisles. I don't know why I noticed him first. Maybe because he wasn't really shopping. He was standing at the end of aisle 9, facing the shelves full of candles and picture frames. A man in a black hoodie, hood up, hands in his pockets. He wasn't moving, just standing there like he was waiting for someone. When I passed the aisle, I said, "Excuse me." He didn't respond, didn't even turn his head. I brushed it off. People are weird in the city. You learn not to stare too long. I grabbed a few items, trying not to overthink it. But as I moved from aisle to aisle, I kept feeling like someone was behind me. When I turned, though, there was nobody. By the time I got to the cleaning section, I heard something that froze me mid-step, whispering. It was soft, like the sound of air through teeth. I couldn't make out words, but it was coming from the next aisle over. Aisle 9, the same one where that guy had been standing. I peeked around the corner. The aisle was empty. No hoodie, no customer. But every single candle on the shelf was slightly turned. All facing toward the middle of the aisle, like someone had aligned them perfectly to look at me. I stepped back, heart thumping. "Weird," I muttered, forcing a laugh, pretending I wasn't freaked out. I grabbed my stuff and headed to the counter. The cashier looked up for the first time all night. Her expression changed when she saw me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just tired." "Why?" She tilted her head slightly. "You look pale." "You've been in here long?" I frowned. "Like 10 minutes?" She shook her head slowly. "You've been walking around for almost 40. That didn't make sense. I checked my phone. It was 10:18. I'd entered around 9:35. "Must have lost track of time," I said, trying to sound normal. She nodded, clearly unconvinced. As I turned to leave, the automatic doors didn't open. I stood there awkwardly, waiting. "Sometimes they get stuck," the cashier said and came over to help. When she stepped in front of me, she froze. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Who's that?" I followed her gaze to the glass door. Reflected behind us, standing near the back of the store, was the man in the hoodie. But when I turned around, the store was empty. I didn't wait. The doors suddenly hissed open, and I practically ran outside, clutching my plastic bags like they'd protect me. The street was colder than before. The wind bit through my jacket. As I crossed the intersection, I glanced back. Through the front window, the cashier was staring at something behind the register, mouth open in shock. I didn't stick around to see what. Back in my apartment, I locked the door, tossed the bags on the counter, and took a long breath. My hands were still shaking. I poured myself a glass of water, sat on the couch, and tried to convince myself it was just nerves. The hum of the fridge filled the silence. The clock ticked louder than usual. Then, I heard it again. That whispering, it was faint, like someone murmuring in another room. I got up, checking every corner of the apartment. Nothing. I told myself maybe it was a neighbor through the wall. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "You forgot something in aisle 9. My stomach dropped. I deleted the message immediately, tossed the phone on the couch, and turned on the TV. Any sound was better than the quiet. But the whispering didn't stop. It got closer, like it was right behind me. When I turned around, the hallway light flickered, once, twice, and then the bulb blew out with a pop. The apartment went dim, shadows stretching across the floor. I walked slowly toward the kitchen. Every sound amplified. The creak of the floor, the hum of the refrigerator, my own breathing. And then I saw movement. In the reflection of my microwave door, a shape passed behind me. Tall, still, wearing a hood. I spun around. No one. But there, on my counter, sitting next to the Dollar Tree bags, was a green candle. I hadn't bought any candles. Its wick was already blackened. like it had been burned. I backed away, heart racing, and the whispering grew louder, wrapping around me like static. A low voice whispered right into my ear. Aisle 9. The candle flickered to life by itself. Green flame, no lighter, no spark. And in that flickering light, for just a moment, I saw him again. The man in the hoodie, standing in the corner of my living room. His head tilted slightly, like he was studying me. I blinked, and he was gone, but the candle stayed lit. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak made me jump. I kept the lights on until morning. When the sun came up, I packed the candle in a bag and threw it in the dumpster outside. When I came back upstairs, my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. You shouldn't have done that. I froze. Then another message came through. Come back. You're not done shopping. I tried to block the number, but before I could, one final message appeared. This time, a photo. It was me, standing in aisle 9. Except, I hadn't taken that picture, and behind me, barely visible through the grainy image, was a shape in a black hoodie. The caption underneath said, "Smile for the cameras." The next day I went back to the Dollar Tree. I don't even know why. Maybe to prove to myself that it was all in my head. When I entered, the same cashier was there. She looked up and froze. "I thought you moved," she said quietly. I frowned. "What do you mean? You came in last night, around midnight." "No, I didn't." Her hands trembled as she pointed to the security monitor. "You did. You were standing in aisle 9 for almost an hour. I stepped closer to the screen, and there I was, on grainy footage, staring blankly at the shelves. Only, my eyes looked black, and standing right beside me was the hooded man. The cashier whispered, "He came in with you." I don't remember leaving the store after that. The next thing I recall is being back in my apartment, lights off, the smell of candle wax thick in the air. I turned toward my counter, and there it was again. The green candle, still burning, its flame reflected off the window. And in that reflection, someone was standing behind me. Some aisles shouldn't exist after closing time. And some things you buy, don't let you return them. I've worked at the Dollar Tree on 8th and Belmont for a little over 2 years now. It's not glamorous, but it pays my bills. Our stores open late, 11 p.m. on weekdays. And because it's in the middle of the city, we get all kinds of customers. Drunks, night shift workers, students on a budget. But there's one night that made me question everything I believed about this place. And I wish to God I'd never picked up that picture frame. It started on a quiet Thursday evening. The aisles were clean, the register light flickered like usual, and the store smelled faintly of mop water and cheap plastic. I was behind the counter, restocking lighters and batteries when I saw her. An older woman, maybe in her 60s, standing near the photo frame section. She looked completely still. Her grey hair was tied in a tight bun. Her clothes looked old-fashioned, like something from the 70s. Faded floral blouse, long brown skirt. What caught my attention, though, was that she wasn't browsing. She was staring at one particular frame. A plain, black Dollar Tree photo frame with fake wood edges. I almost went over to ask if she needed help, but something about her made me hesitate. When I looked again, she was gone. At first, I thought maybe she'd gone to another aisle, but when I walked over, I noticed something odd. The photo frame she'd been staring at was missing. Around an hour later, near closing time, a man came in. He looked tired. Construction worker type. Dust on his jeans, hands rough and dirty. He came straight to the counter, holding something wrapped in a newspaper. He dropped it in front of me and said, "Refund." Don't care about the dollar, I unwrapped it. And my stomach went cold. It was the same black photo frame the old woman had been staring at. But the picture inside wasn't a sample printer or family photo. It was a real photograph, a faded image of a woman, pale face, grey bun, floral blouse, staring straight at the camera. Her expression was blank, but her eyes looked alive. I told him we couldn't refund opened items, but he just shook his head. "She's in my house," he whispered. Then he turned and walked out before I could say anything else. The next morning, the same photo frame was sitting in the return bin behind the counter. No note, no tag, just sitting there. My co-worker Jamie joked that maybe the lady in the photo was haunting the frame, but I laughed it off. Still, I didn't like how real the picture looked. Like it had been taken yesterday. I left it on the counter, but when I came back from my break, it was gone. Jamie swore she didn't touch it. We looked around. Nothing. The frame had disappeared. That night, the same old woman came back. I recognized her immediately. Same bun, same clothes. But her face looked even paler, her eyes more sunken. She didn't speak. She just walked past the aisles, all the way to the back where the frames were, and placed something on the shelf. I waited until she left before checking. My heart started racing when I saw it. The same frame, same photo. This time, the picture had changed slightly. The woman's eyes were looking a bit to the left, like she'd moved. I told my manager the next day. He thought it was some prank by kids, or maybe someone editing photos. He threw the frame in the trash out back, but the next morning, it was hanging on the employee bulletin board. No one admitted putting it there. The tape was old, like it had been there for weeks, and the picture had changed again. The woman was smiling now, a faint, unsettling grin. Jamie quit that same day, after finding the frame in the stockroom, propped against the mirror near the break table. She said she heard whispering. A woman's voice saying her name. I didn't quit. I should have. I needed the money, and I didn't believe in ghosts. But by that weekend, things started happening outside the store. I began finding small items from Dollar Tree in my apartment. A cheap candle, a plastic flower, a packet of nails. Things I never bought. And every time I saw a reflection in the microwave door, in the bathroom mirror, I could swear I saw someone standing behind me for a split second. At first, I told myself I was tired. But the dream started next. Every night, I'd see the woman from the photo standing at the end of an aisle, whispering something I couldn't make out. When I woke up, my phone alarm would already be set. 3:33 a.m. Even though I'd never touched it. On Monday, I decided to end it. I brought the frame home, thinking maybe if I destroyed it, everything would stop. It was cold to the touch, even though my apartment was warm. The glass fogged as if it had come straight from a freezer. When I tried to remove the photo, it wouldn't budge. It was stuck, fused to the glass. I took a hammer and smashed the frame. The glass shattered across the floor, and for a moment the picture was gone. Relief washed over me, until I looked down. The pieces of glass weren't reflecting my face. Every shard showed the same woman's eyes, staring right back at me. I swept them up and threw everything in a dumpster behind my building. That night was the first I'd slept peacefully in weeks. But peace didn't last long. The next evening, I got called in early for my shift. When I walked into the store, the manager pulled me aside. "Did you bring that frame back?" he asked. I froze. He pointed to the photo frame display. Right in the center was the same black frame, cracked, taped back together, with the same photograph inside. Except this time, there were two faces, the old woman and me, standing behind her. I quit that night, left mid-shift and never went back. A few weeks later, I drove by out of curiosity. The Dollar Tree was closed down, sign removed, windows blacked out. But as I stopped at the light, something caught my eye. Through a gap in the paper covering the glass, I saw the inside of the store. And there, hanging on the wall behind the counter, was that same black frame. Only now, it had three faces. Sometimes the things we sell don't want to be sold. And sometimes they come back to finish the transaction.